Spaghetti Western Orchestra and the good, the bad, and the ugly. I've just been informed that Pat, you're the chief whistler, Pat, on that. This is in fact you as the main whistler.
Oh, I am. I've been whistling since a wee child.
Now that would get you a guaranteed place in this band, wouldn't it? Being a whistler.
Absolutely, they can't get rid of me. But I notice Boris just behind me now has been whistling a lot lately. I think he's practicing to be my understudy. I'm worried.
That could be a worry.
There's going to be a coup.
Yeah, I think so. They could say it's time to bring up the other fella now. You see, and you'll be driving the van very shortly. Listen, let's explain to me now about the Spaghetti Western Orchestra, because the fact of this is that you guys started in 2007 Montreal Jazz Festival. That was the beginning.
Yeah, well, we actually started in Melbourne before that,
sure.
and before we were the Spaghetti Western Orchestra, for a few years in Melbourne, we played as the Ennio Morricone Experience.
Without the great man.
Yeah. But we took ourselves off to the Edinburgh Festival in 2005 and 2006, and that's where we met Glynis Henderson, the producer of Stomp, and she introduced us to a Canadian director, Denis Blais, and then we got together with him in 2007, and we reworked the show into what we see today, which is a lot more visual. It's got a very beautiful and colourful stage design and costumes and
a lot of cactus plants.
There's no cactus.
No cactus.
Absolutely no
That'd
cactus.
That'd be too corny.
Yeah,
you think?
It'd be way too corny.
I thought that'd be just automatic.
We've got one in the van we travel with.
Somewhere to hang your coat, I understand. But the idea of Ennio Morricone, all of you or some of you classically trained musicians?
Now some of us.
Yeah.
We've got all different backgrounds. A
Yeah.
couple of us are classically trained, done a lot of contemporary music. Pat did a lot of comedy and cabaret. Boris has done a lot of theatre and television. So we've sort of brought all these different backgrounds together. Yeah.
Boris could do bouncing as well. I would never, I got to tell you, I would never argue with Boris. There's nothing.
We don't either.
Whatever he wants to do. Now listen, you're going to give us. This is a Morricone medley that you're going to do.
Yes, we call it the Fistful Medley.
There are no words, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, just a reminder, it's the Helix tonight, just in case you're wondering which way to point the van. It's the Helix tonight at 7:30 for the Spaghetti Western Orchestra, ladies and gentlemen. Here they are with the Morricone medley. I am just beside myself. We're filming this, which you'll see on our website in time. That is just incredible to watch.
That was good. It blew the cobwebs out for us, 'cause it's quite early.
No one would believe that was live, and it was live with an array of instruments. I mean, the flute was played. Sorry, is it Jess? He was playing the.
That's Shannon.
Shannon, sorry, you were playing the what sort of guitar? Is that a guitar? Is it a kind of mandolin? Gorgeous.
Mandolin.
And then you had this
A treble recorder.
and
Alto, sorry.
and
alto
all
recorder.
of you just alto. See, we should have known that.
Yeah, we should have known
In
that.
fairness, musicians, but it's just astonishing to me that you can do that live with the precision that you. That's fantastic. And
it's
you
a great joy.
and you a comedian for God's sake.
Thank you. It's a joy just actually. I mean, one of the joys for us on stage is the fact that these scores were created for 60 to 80 piece orchestras plus a choir. And the fun that we can have as five musicians, you know, desperately trying to recreate these scores. That's the fun for us, and that's the fun for the audience as well, because they see us running around, you know, whistling 1 minute, playing the trumpet. Jess is on timpani, vibraphone, there's piano, double bass, mandolin, mouth organ, and it's a joy to perform.
It's has Morricone, is he aware of this, or have you?
He's aware of it, yeah. He's seen a DVD, and apparently his reaction was favourable. But
in Italian, of
yeah, he's not keen on the name because spaghetti western is a derogatory term that the Americans kind of used.
so they could put it in a little pigeonhole
And it's
box.
still quite offensive to
Really?
Morricone even today, even though spaghetti western for us is like a iconic sort of.
and it just explains
genre.
very quickly what we're talking about. So that's strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
But did he like what you had achieved? Did he?
We believe so.
Apparently,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what we've heard. He's
Yeah.
in Australia now
He's in Australia performing in Adelaide.
for the first time ever.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, we're going to sue him.
That's a disgrace because I have tried so many times to try and get to see him, and it just doesn't click. I can't. And he was in. He's not a young man. He's in his 80s, and they said no, he won't. He maybe won't be travelling, so we don't know. And he goes off to Moscow at Christmas time, and he does 2 gigs. So like I don't know. And he was in South America. Very unusual locations. But listen, you brought a table in, guys. Now who's going to talk me through this? This is amazing because quite frankly, I mentioned this in the program earlier. I can see a cabbage. That's the first thing I suppose I should explain to the listener. What else do we have?
What we did when we put this whole act together was we looked into the whole back room, the art of Foley. For the listeners who aren't aware, most sounds in films are replaced after they've shot the film. They come back into the studio and put all the sound back on because they can't use the sound necessarily that they've recorded. So, and we looked at, how do they? What's the best thing to make wind? What's the best thing to make footsteps? When it comes to fight scenes, vegetable matter is the best. So cabbages and celery is the best sound for when you want to hit something, or a watermelon or a piece of meat.
Really?
We left the meat at home.
Yeah,
this
we
morning.
don't go the meat.
This is going to worry the boxing world, so I'm going to look forward to this.
So at the fight scene, I won't give that sound away, but at the end of this sequence,
Yes.
you'll hear a bit of fighting, and you'll hear some punching, and that's a lettuce being destroyed to make a big mess of your studio.
Well, thank you.
And then for the sound of footsteps in gravel, we've got just a few rocks in a little tray.
Yeah.
With a clog, and we get. But we're sticklers for detail. We've put a few jingles on the.
You have to
that
give it
gives you
the
the
spurs. Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you research this yourselves, or did you?
Yeah, there's a lot of information out
Yeah.
there. It's pretty easy to find. And this is a door. This is a door creak.
No,
So
it's
these
not.
are all
It's an empty salmon tin.
an empty salmon tin
And a piece of wood.
with a string and a piece of wood on the end.
Yeah.
The sound's all happening at the piece of wood end, and the salmon tin amplifies it, and it sounds like an opening door.
Tom says yes, and he's an expert. He knows stuff. He knows sound outside. Tom does.
And this one is a rusty hinge to give us a creaky sign. So this is when the wind is blowing and the sign's
Of course.
blowing in the wind. And
Eastwood has just come into
I
town
can't play
now.
this as well as Jess. I'll get Jess to.
Jess is head
demonstrate
of
this for you on
he's
the-
head of
Jess
hinges.
is the
isn't he?
expert on this.
Yeah, slightly unhinged.
Yeah. And it looks simple, but it actually was quite hard to get a hinge that made that sound. So
I
there's
can
a lot of work
see-
gone into this.
I hear that hinge and I see Lee Van Cleef. I just do.
That's it. Well,
Automatic thing. With me.
we've got a whole sequence that we're going to do for you.
You're going to do that now?
If
Yeah.
you'd like.
Oh Lord! So you're going to? Are you playing music with this, or is it
No,
just?
this is what we call a Foley sequence. It's a You'll work out what the scenario is. I'm sure I don't have to tell you.
Okay. Now remember, this is the Spaghetti Western Orchestra, and they're basically using all sorts of, well, it looks like ropes and tins and bits of rubber. Don't try this at home. So we'll leave them to see what this is. And remember, we're thinking Ennio Morricone, so we're thinking spaghetti westerns and all of that. All right, guys.
Well, anyway, you're going to eat whiskey. That ain't whiskey. Oh, senor, I'm telling you now! On the face! No, the face! I swear! No, that's enough! No, I'm begging you, senor! That's enough!
He's dead.
No, I ain't.
Astonishing. That is astonishing. I'll never have lettuce again. That is just fantastic. And that's referred to as the Foley
Foley sequence.
sequence.
Yeah.
That is just magnificent. And it is true, because the sound that we expect to hear for a door closing or whatever is not actually good enough for film, and therefore it's recreated.
Well, that's
doing
the
all
interesting
sorts of
thing. I
stuff,
mean,
yeah.
when we started looking into these techniques, we immediately thought, well, there's a lot of theatrical potential.
Sure.
For example, when the Terminator goes through the glass and he transforms, they made that sound by emptying a tin of dog food next to a microphone. You know.
It's another film ruined, thank you.
It was a great thing about Morricone as well, because
Yeah.
he loved the sound effects so much, and he loved to use them with music. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have seen Once Upon a Time in the West, and the opening scene of that, of just the drips, the raindrops on the hat, the fly buzzing, they're really highly amplified. So they're not kind of realistic sounds in a way, but highly amplified to create it's almost like an effect in a score.
For
so
sure.
he treats the sound effects as part of the score, and we do the same thing on stage.
Oh, it's fantastic. I've got to say, it's just a joy. Now, when people come tonight to see you in the Helix or any of these gigs, you do this. You certainly, do you give them an element of that or some of it? Or?
Yeah, but they're sort of the bridging things. I mean, the main
Yes.
thing we do is we do a big concert of the music.
Yes, you do.
With a big stage full of orchestral instruments and real instruments. But we also digress into these moments of sound effects and Foley and sequences. And that's when we have a lot of fun and we use all sorts of things. And we've got lots of everyday objects. You know, what Patrick was talking about before. We use a pair of asthma inhalers and we give them just as much importance as the trumpet or the timpani.
That must be a
For
boon,
one little moment.
A boon to the poor person in the audience who needs that. Aside from that, but again, do you involve the audience? Do you involve?
We do, yeah. We get them to join in on certain sound effects. Like we might need a bit of bar hubbub, so we'll get the audience to
Bar
join
hubbub.
in. That kind of thing, or a bit of evil laughter, you know. Or we get them to do create a night scene with bird whistles, you know. And we get the audience joining in with that, and we get them to hum actually a beautiful melody from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly called Machetta at the end.
Oh, I know.
And that's lovely. And in Ireland, they're pretty good singers you've
Yes,
got here.
yeah.
Not so shabby.
No, we involve ourselves.
Yeah.
Part Australian, part Irish. That's how it works. Now, I better explain to people, you're in Galway. You're in Galway, I'll tell you because you probably don't know. 24th, 25th, you've no idea, have you? No. 25th, you're in Cork. 26th, you're in Belfast. Tonight is the Helix in Dublin. Will you play us out on something. Could you play? Would you play us out on something? Someone mentioned 60 seconds to what, but it's entirely up to. Oh, will we play it?
I think you'll have to play it on
Well,
the
we have to
CD. We
play it
haven't got the
ourselves.
grand pipe organ here. We normally.
It's in the van. That's it. It'll be stolen now. Hope it's securely fastened outside. Guys, I've got to thank you so much for coming in today. You're a real pleasure. And that's to Jess and to Boris and to Patrick and Graham and Shannon. Thank you all for coming in today. Thanks, man. God bless.